All right, recording, yes. Okay. All right, good afternoon. Welcome. We have Mad River Local Schools here today, and they're going to discuss diploma with meaning. And our guest speaker today is Jeff Burke, coming to you from Stebbins High School. And he's been an educator for 19 years in the state of Ohio. He's been an intervention specialist, a special education supervisor, an assistant principal, a building principal, and currently is the career tech director for Stebbins High School in the Mad River Local School District. He's presented many professional development classes, such as Life Through the Eyes of a Learning Disabled Student and Integrating Academics and Awarding Simultaneous Credit within CTE, to name a few. And my most exciting part that I like to share is that he's a published author of 2 books, NCAA Eligibility, Student Athletes with Education Impacting Disabilities, and Disability, Nothing Should Stop You, Uncover the Strength in Your Disability. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, give Mr. Burke the power in just a second once I get my computer to stop working. There we go. And there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie.
Looks good.
All right, so to go ahead and get started for today, I'm going to talk a little bit about graduating our students with a diploma with a meaning. So what I'm looking at, or what I'm talking about with that, is making sure that when we're aligning our students' graduation plans and success plans, that we're setting them up that when they leave high school, they're able to leave with something more than just a high school diploma. And the big thing with that, and we're very fortunate here in Mad River Local Schools that we are our own CTPD. So we are a comprehensive high school, and we have 10 career tech programs here at our high school for our students to be able to participate in. So that is very unique, especially here in the southwest part of Ohio, to have that opportunity. But there's things that you can do even if you're in a traditional high school that feeds into a JVSD or feeds into a compact CTPD. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit today about our focus and the way that we kind of look at things when we're sitting down and discussing with our students their graduation plans, and then also looking at some of those students that fall off track from graduation. As a lot of times those are the students that we start looking at and wondering, okay, what are we going to do to help them graduate, whether that would be credits or that would be the state testing that may be holding them back from meeting those graduation requirements. So here kind of have our career tech wheel. It kind of shows the different career tech programs that we offer here at Stebbins High School. As I said, we have 10 programs that our students take, and then we have 6 feeder courses from our middle school, and students can take in 7th and 8th grade that align with our programs here at the high school. And then we also have some introductory courses our students can take freshman and sophomore year for them to have an opportunity to kind of see which career paths they may be interested in, and which route they want to go. And the big thing right now, we're finishing up some of our recruitment and application times for our students applying to go into the different programs. And the big thing, kind of conversations I have with the kids is, don't get caught up on the name of the program. So for example, like Teacher Academy, a lot of students are like, I don't want to be a teacher. But we explain to them that it's more than just becoming a teacher. It's more of human services. You're looking at a counselor, a psychologist, social worker, things in that nature, are just some of the conversations that we have with our students to make sure that nobody just gets caught up just on the name that's on the program. As sometimes I think some students just see the bold wording and their families and kind of move on based off that and what their interests are. So kind of talking about the advising piece and development, the biggest piece that I see is not focusing directly on the graduation requirement. So what I'm saying by that is when we're sitting down and we're working out the graduation plans for students and their success plans and so forth, don't look at it as a way of how do I get this student graduated. A lot of times I think we look at it as, here's a student who we know is not a good test taker, so we're going to find a credential path for them to do one of the alternative graduation pathways. And we put the student in some form of 12-point credentials, and it may be something or may not be something students are really interested in. And so the big thing is trying to find a way to make sure that we are not only providing an opportunity to make sure they graduate, which is very important, but also making sure it's something that will benefit them in whatever career path they may go down, as they see. And one of the big things when I talk with the students, used to always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? What kind of career do you want? My conversation with students nowadays is a lot more about what lifestyle goals do you have? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? For one example, I have one student who she told me her goal is to have a studio apartment and live with her cats. And she just needs a job that will pay to be able to provide that opportunity for her. Where you have other students who want to move to Florida or so forth and live on the beach and, all the beautiful weather down there and so forth. So by having that lifestyle goals, talk with the students to then put into perspective what type of jobs and careers and things that they would be interested in looking at possibly having versus going straight to what type of career, what kind of job, what do you want to do, conversation. And then taking that lifestyle goals and then kind of finding out what things there may be of interest for them, and then how can we go about with credentials, how can we go about with a pre-apprenticeship, some of those areas that would fall under that alternative graduation pathway. So ultimately making it to where they see value in it as well, beyond just this is something I can check off to meet a requirement to receive my diploma, which I think a lot of times, nowadays with the state testing and so forth, we're just trying to find a way to make sure we get the students graduated, because we know that is a huge hurdle that we have to get over for them to be, successful, be able to provide for themselves and so forth after graduation. But trying to find out how we can do that to where it will be a positive experience for them, and then kind of give them that opportunity of, okay, this is something I do like, I could see myself doing in the future, or maybe this is something I don't like, and now I've learned that this is something I don't want to do, which I tell our students all the time here with the Career Tech Center is, career tech is multiple things. It's not just that this is what I want to do and that's the path I'm going to go and I'm going to get a career and work in this industry. It's also finding out things that you think you may like that you learn you don't like. And one good example I use for our students when I have these conversations is we had a student who graduated a couple years ago. Her whole life she grew up wanting to be a nurse. She went into our nursing program. She got her STNA license, got an internship working at one of the local nursing homes. A couple weeks into it, she realized she did not like dealing with bodily fluids and things that nurses deal with. So she came back to me and she's like, this is not really for me. And she's like, my family are educators. I'm thinking maybe I should look at possibly becoming a teacher. So we got her set up with a internship to go and work in our elementaries. And she did that for a little bit. And she came back and said, nope, that's not really what I want either. And then when everything kind of settled, I ran into her actually this past fall at a football game. And it was kind of funny because she's like, well, Mr. Burke, I finally figured out what it is I want to do. And, I wasted everybody's time and I'm so sorry for that. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, I'm going to school for cosmetology. And I said, well, that's great. I said, but you didn't waste your time. You didn't waste anybody's time. And the reason for that is you were able to get your STNA, have the experience as a nursing assistant to realize that's something you don't want to do. So you didn't end up spending the money to pay for that. Then you thought you wanted to go into teaching. You went and spent time at, doing a job placement for a month for teaching and learned that teaching is not what you wanted to do. And I said, well, that's so much money you saved because you could have spent 2 years worth of college tuition to learn that when you did your field placement your junior year, it's not what you wanted to do. And I said, so now the only amount of money you've had to pay is for school that you're in now. And that's what you finally have come across that you really enjoy and you really like doing. So when we come back to that advising piece is, making sure that, just not making graduation the sole focus of, okay, I got to get you across this line. I got to figure out a way for you to graduate. And how are we going to do that? And so that's one of the big pieces that I try to bring into a lot of the conversations I have with our students, and especially working with them as they kind of craft out their plans and what they're looking at doing. Kind of talk about also, informing the parents and keeping them involved throughout the communication process. We do a lot of communications here. So when we're looking at our career tech programs, We do 8th grade tours into our career tech programs. They get to do some introductory classes freshman, sophomore year. We have a career tech magazine that highlights all of our programs, highlights the different careers, the different post-secondary education that students may need, depending on which type of career they would like within those fields. It talks about the job market, the available jobs. It has a career cluster inventory for students to be able to complete. So all the students are given that. And then we also, when we get closer to the time of students applying for different programs, we also then mail home different things that highlight all of our programs with that information as well. So then they can have conversations with their families, with their guardians, and kind of go over everything and kind of identify what may be the best route for them, looking to identify what that lifestyle they want to live is and how they can quickly get there. And then from there, we do have some students who decide, the career tech route is not what they want to do. And that's totally fine. And, they may want to do a little bit more heavier in CCP and get more CCP classes in because they know the field that they're looking at going into is going to require, a lot of additional post-secondary, and they want to get that covered as much as they can financially. And that's one of the big things we really try to work on is, how do we get the most bang for the buck to help the students? We have a lot of first generational college students going through our programs and also just going through our school as a whole and trying to make sure we're getting them set up so that they're able to leave here and be able to live that lifestyle that they would like. When we're looking at credentials, so we have been doing Rise Up credentials here and Microsoft Office credentials, where students can choose to go into either one of those courses if they so choose to where they can earn credentials, whether they need that for graduation or not. It's open to all students. But what we're going to do for next year, we're kind of making a little bit of a shift. And instead of saying, okay, here's a Rise Up for retail industry and here's a Microsoft Office course, we're going to kind of create a class that kind of has a bucket of opportunities for students to be able to kind of choose from that kind of will best fit their path within there to achieve those 12 points. So with that, we're looking at, we got down there to the bottom, it talks about some of the available for the business pathway, looking from, Rise Up with fundamentals, customer service, business retail, warehouse inventory, and then looking at Microsoft Office for Word and PowerPoint, as those are two of the Microsoft Office ones that we've had the most success with. And then also students feel that, they need to hone in on those skills before heading off to post-secondary as being big ones for them. And then the other piece, we wanted to add in something to do with leadership or helping guide the students on those soft skills and different things that no matter what career field they go into. So we're looking at, we're going to be doing the leadership excellence credential. So we've actually are working currently with Embold and Pass Foundation on getting a teacher credentialed, and I'm going through the training myself as well, so I can help support that teacher throughout the process when we implement that next year. Just because we know that covers all pathways, and no matter what line of work or career the student is going into, that they need those soft skills or career skills to make sure that they're being successful in getting them set up. And a big thing is, on one side, a lot of people, when they look at alternative graduation and they're like, okay, we got to get a credential. And the big thing I say to everybody is there's not an easy credential. Credentials are hard. So you have students who are not passing the state test. They may be able to get the credential, they may not. We have students that we're working with here that we went through numerous routes of credentials for their career tech program, their WebEx, their EOCs, a lot of different things, and we're still sitting there trying to check off that last piece, so to say, for them to meet graduation requirements, because credentials are not easy. They are challenging. And that's a big thing. I think sometimes when people look at credentials, they go, okay, that's that's an easier route, whether it's a student thinking that or ourselves. But there's not an easy credential. And then sometimes, you have people look at, because money is a big piece. You have districts that look at it and say, well, what's free and what's cheap? How can we get those ones and use those? And my thought on that piece and some of the things I've seen is when I take a student and I put them in there, even if I tell them you need this to graduate, and they're not interested in it, they're still not very successful with it. Because once again, a lot of the credential stuff is a lot of reading, a lot of comprehension, reading skills, and being able to read over material and then being able to answer questions. And if it's something that they're not interested in, then there's a greater possibility that they still will not be real successful with that. And then you're still going to be sitting there wondering, how are we going to get this student graduated? So then going from the credentials, the next piece that a lot of people look at for graduation requirements is looking at the pre-apprenticeship. My big piece, and I kind of presented on this a little bit at Success Bound Conference at Sinclair the other month ago, is making sure it's meaningful, and we're not just putting students into a pre-apprenticeship to help check that box. Making sure that we're working on building a skill, working on that lifestyle focus. We're fortunate we have a couple different pre-apprenticeships that we run in-house here at Stebbins, and then we have some pre-apprenticeships that our students do out, within different with different employers and so forth through some of our career tech programs. And the big thing that I always believe in keeping the integrity and the heart and the belief of what pre-apprenticeships are for, and not making it to where it's like, oh, okay, we can put students here and that can check a box to get them graduated and they go do this. I believe in making sure it's something that it's going to help build the skills of that student, whether it's the soft skills side of things of working with customer service and dealing with clients and different things in that nature, or if it's a thing of learning, like we run an IT one here, and having our students where they're getting involved, they're interested in IT, and then they have an interest of possibly going down that career path, and give them that chance to now start breaking down some of those computers and getting some of that hands-on skills and training from our building IT person, that can help kind of give them that opportunity to see, yes, this is something I would like to do, or no, this isn't. Now that I've got in and got my hands wet a little bit, I've realized this is not the path that I want to go. That I want to do something else. But once again, focusing on building a skill and focusing on students hitting that lifestyle goal that they're trying to achieve for themselves. Next piece is kind of hitting a big area for us, and I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing, is our EL and our special ed population. Our EL populations have grown a lot over the last couple of years. And those students, it's been a little bit more challenging than even some of our special ed students of meeting different pieces that are required for graduation. So looking at making sure that we have things all aligned for the accommodations that students are able to receive, and then also having multiple opportunities at different things. So like when I talk about some of the credential classes, and especially how we're designing our class next year, that's not a class that's just, okay, you haven't passed your EOC, you're going in here and you need to go earn these credentials so you can graduate. That's open to any and all seniors in our building that may be interested in earning those credentials or may need to work on those skills, and so on and so forth, kind of talking with them. But that gives them more opportunities. And then even with some of our career tech programs, there's numerous credentials within each of the pathways that we offer that students have a chance. So maybe it's a thing such as when you're looking at manufacturing, and our manufacturing program is grown a lot in the last couple of years, and the students have a lot of different areas. So you have from your MSSC certifications over to your Haas certifications, using the CNC machines, over to your welding certifications at our welding stations. So it provides a lot of different opportunities versus just saying we do CNC and here you need to go learn these CNC skills and pass these tests to get these certifications. Some students like working a lot more in the manual mills and lathes, and they plan on working for some of our smaller manufacturing companies here in the Dayton area, and we still have that available for them. And that's one thing our manufacturing teacher does a great job of, is he allows the students to kind of pick what path they want to go, and then he really individualizes every single student's path. It's a lot of work on him, a lot of stress for him, but his big goal is, he loves the manufacturing industry, and he wants to make sure that he's producing, talent here in the Dayton area for our manufacturers. He's very involved in the manufacturing DARMA, Dayton Regional Manufacturing Association, and wanting to make sure that we're preparing all of our students, whether they go to a smaller, so to say, mom and pop manufacturing place, or if they go to one of the bigger manufacturing facilities. that are available here. And then the other piece is, start early. Don't wait till the senior year, as far as looking at setting those plans and getting the students the opportunities. I think when we speak with students and we're talking more about, when they're a freshman, they're a senior, what path are you, what kind of lifestyle are you wanting to live? What path are you looking? Here's different credentials that we can get to you. When we do the magazines and things with our career tech and start talking about the different careers and the job opportunities, we start that in 8th grade. So that's when we start having those conversations with our students. And our big thing is, we strive to be very inclusive, and all of our students are involved in those conversations, of making sure that that information is being provided to them. I'm currently in the process of redesigning a whole new website so that we can make the information even easier for our parents to get to. And then just trying to make sure that we have a lot of different avenues that our families can connect with when they're looking for information. So we redid all of our advertising videos last year, or 2 years ago now, to make sure that we have students talking and they're talking about their experience once again. So then our current students are able to kind of hear from some of their peers, and then they can kind of work on making some of those decisions, especially when they're younger. So that they kind of see, a different light at the end of the road versus just get to graduation, just graduate. What's the bare minimum I need? And then that's the thing, a lot of youth, nowadays is, okay, what's the minimum? What's the easiest? What's the quickest? Trying to get them to stop that mindset and kind of look of, what am I going to do to be able to achieve that lifestyle I want? And, a couple of stories I talk about is, one of our HVAC students, when I first got here to Stebbins, he was extremely skilled in HVAC, and he got all his certifications, and he was working for a company here in the Dayton area. And he was looking at moving down to South Carolina to work down there. And the company wanted to make sure they didn't lose him. They gave him a $6 pay increase the day he graduated, and they retroed it back to when he first started working and cut him a nice big check. So, those opportunities to get those students those experiences. And when we talked with that young man, the big thing for him was HVAC saved him. Freshman year, he was off track. Sophomore year, he was falling off track, and he was kind of like, I didn't have a purpose. I really didn't know what I was interested in. Didn't really know, what I wanted to do. Didn't really, I was just living in the moment, so to say. And, for him, once he had a chance to kind of sit there and look at how much money things can make, and then also look at things that he may enjoy and how those paths can connect to that lifestyle. So some students will talk about, like, okay, I want to go into an HVAC industry, but I also don't want to get myself set to where when I'm 40, 50 years old, I got to go carry heavy weights and things that I may not be able to do. And those are good conversations that we're having with the students, because sometimes we don't think about all of that. And the students don't think about that when you're in your teens and your 20s, you're kind of just, everything feels great. And so we start having those conversations when they're young about, okay, if you're looking at going into the HVAC field, and here's different careers that align to that field, that as you get older, whether you're moving into management or into different type of jobs that won't require the physical labor that you have to do to be a installer or a technician, or even moving into owning your own company, and then having the conversations with our business department and so forth about what they need to do to kind of align and prepare and be able to provide the work staff of their company moving there in the future. So those are just some of the things that we really focus on, here at Mad River Local and here at Stebbins High School, as far as trying to make sure that we're giving our students every opportunity possible to not only achieve graduation, but also the ultimate goal is to continue to produce quality, workforce for the Dayton area, and be able to also provide students what they need, no matter what path they want to go on, whether it's post-secondary, straight to the workforce, military, and making sure that the students see meaning and value in what they're doing, so that it's more than just something another class I have to go do. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of discussions and a lot of looking at what we offer and how we offer it, here on campus, to make sure that we're keeping those student interests and thoughts there, in the forefront at all times, to make sure that we're hitting all those different areas that they may be interested in, and then at the same time they're still able to achieve that graduation, if that state testing piece is the piece that's holding some students back. So I know, a lot of people that I talk to around the state in different meetings I've been in, that's the big kicker, the big struggle. They're looking at 100 plus kids per graduating class that still have not met the competency scores on the state test. And how are we going to get them graduated? And the big thing is, just from what I've seen, from our success with it here, and our graduation rate is continuing to rise, is the fact of trying to make it more meaningful as young as possible. So we've done things as far as even like bringing our sixth graders over to our career tech facility to show them, education is a lot more than just lectures and books and answering questions and, turning and doing tests, so that we can hopefully ignite that fire and that interest to make them want to, strive to achieve things, to kind of put them in path. When they're that young, they're not necessarily 100% looking at lifestyle or career they want. They're looking at a handful of other things, but the chance for them to experience that and to see that, how education can change and the opportunities as they get older and move into middle school or move into the high school, and continue to make sure they got themselves set up on track to achieve that ultimate goal that we all have, and that's for all of our students to graduate and have a meaningful diploma. So that is it for me on my slides. Love to take any questions.
With what you're doing for next year. Oh, sorry, I cut you off, Tony. How are staff going to buy into those changes? How do you keep bringing them back to doing what's best for kids? Because change is hard, right?
Change is very hard. So for that specific situation, I've been working with that teacher directly, and allowing them to have a lot of input and say so into what that class looks like as far as a day by day. The other piece that I also did is they had to go and get the certification to be able to teach, like the leadership excellence. So I made sure I signed up to do it as well, so I know exactly what they're going through, so I can be there to support them. And because especially when you're looking at some credentials and different things in that nature, you may have one person who can do it in your building, and when you're running into that, they start to fall into that island, and it starts to become pretty lonely quickly. So I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll do the certification training and everything as well, and so I can be able to provide support there and help as they have questions. And, as he's going through the training and so forth, there's been things that, he's kind of been like, oh, I don't know about this. What about that? So I see it already being able to help. But the big buy-in, I think, is, talking with the teacher, letting them kind of go through and look at all the different credentials and the things that he felt his skills could bring to that table. So instead of saying, here's a cheap one, because Microsoft Office, Rise Up are not cheap credentials, to offer, instead of saying, here's the cheap one, it was kind of, where do you see your skill set, and here's every single credential out there, and where do you see where you can provide the most for your skills for the students, to help them. So he went through and did a lot of research on his own and reached out to a lot of schools that are already offering some of those credentials and talked with those teachers, to kind of see what they see as being successful and not being successful, and then the roadblocks and different things in that nature that they had ran into. So I think that ownership piece of them being able, or him being able to kind of create all of that, versus me coming in saying, hey, we need credential class for kids to be able to graduate, so you're going to teach it. What do you want to teach? Or you're going to teach this because this is one that we're easy to access. So I think that's been a big piece for his buy-in. I know he's excited for it. He was our Microsoft Office suites teacher for our Microsoft Office. So he was kind of like, kids really enjoy this, the PowerPoint, the Word. They really see it as beneficial. They see it into, every different type of career or what they're going to be doing, whether they're going post-secondary or straight to the workforce, versus, Excel. Some of the kids that see themselves going down a business path have a little more interest in it, but some of the kids that are like, I don't see the purpose of this because I'm never going to, and their belief is the career path they're going, they're never going to touch Excel again once they leave this building. So from his couple of years of doing that Microsoft Office, he's been able to get a feel on that and use his expertise to kind of go through and kind of sculpture things a little bit around what's been successful and what our students here have expressed to him.
Okay. No, thank you. That helps. Anybody else? Okay, so here is the QR codes for feedback and to get your certificate. Jeff, we appreciate it, and you hit everything that's really important as people are having these discussions, and then most of all, getting feedback and letting teachers have some ownership of what they offer. And then us, I mean, what else can we say about having an administrator do the training with you? So like you said, they're not on the island, they're not siloed. So good information. We appreciate you presenting, and if there's no other questions, we're just going to say thank you and we'll close out the session.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who attended.
All right.
Thank you. See
Thank
you
you,
later.
Tony.